What's going on, people? It's your man the White Bee back once again. Shout out to my darky free your roots for coming through and boosting up the PayPal coin, you best believe it. So, Ben Shalom has been Johnny bashed by Sky Sports. This news is a bit late, as is traditional at this channel. Nonetheless, it's here. Let's hear from Ben himself.
Just to address last few things, we know that this is reportedly the last fight of the deal with the current broadcast deal with Sky. Can you tell us what the current situation is and what the future holds for box at the moment?
Look, it's the end of the cycle, but it's been an unbelievable broadcast cycle, especially the most recent times. We have a big announcement to make very soon. But as I say, we've gone in this period from a start-up to a big business, and to see all of...
So, some more waffling there, but that essentially confirms it's over for Ben Shalom at Sky. Clip here, and this is the most interesting clip. We'll get to it.
Well, we've got a big announcement to come. There's been a lot of speculation, and a lot of people say this and say that, and I've seen things tonight. We're still in discussions with Sky, and it's been a crazy 6 months with some massive wins for us. So we have an announcement soon, but as a business, we have to grow as well, and we have to make sure that we are able to put on the biggest events possible with the biggest budgets possible. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey since when we started, and we're only getting bigger and bigger, and it should be an unbelievable end to the year. Well, we've got a big announcement.
Okay, so he's got a big announcement coming. He dropped in there. We're still in negotiations with Sky. He can forget about that. From what I'm hearing from people close to the situation, this is the deal. Sky came to Ben Shalom, looked at the numbers, and at the end of the day, and it's been this way for a while, thinking about it now, Hearn's come out, and I'll play that video in a second. Hearn's come out glazing himself, saying, yeah, Ben just couldn't compete with what I was doing. Because Hearn was really the one, I'm pretty sure, when did Sky get into generic boxing? I'm sure at one point they were only doing pay-per-view. What are they always doing randomly? I think Hearn was the one who brought Sky into normal shows, non-pay-per-view shows. Don't quote me on that. Either way, Eggy's saying, oh, no one can replicate what we've done. The truth is, Eggy, you got lucky with AJ. Yeah, there was a huge boom on the back of AJ. If you didn't have AJ, you'd have been like Ben Shalom, is the truth. You need that breakthrough star, that magic to come together. If Ben Shalom had an AJ, guess what? Sky wouldn't have been going nowhere. And to be fair to Ben, what I've been hearing anyway is that Sky didn't completely dead him off. Sky said to Ben, we want to work with you on a pay-per-view basis, i.e. if you've got pay-per-view fights to bring us, we'll do it. What we're not going to do is be funding these Joe Blow shows, these non-pay-per-view shows. We don't have much interest in that. Because essentially they're just losing money at the end of the day. Yeah? Pay-per-view shows, they make money. Or assuming it's a pay-per-view worthy show. You've got a direct revenue source. Otherwise, if you're just slapping things on Sky, that budget's got to come from somewhere. Them numbers have to add up. You have to be able to say, well, we've got boxing on a Sky free service or a Sky generic non-pay-per-view service, and it's bringing in X amount of new customers. If no one's coming in based on the boxing, they're thinking, what are we paying for that for? It's another cost for us. And really, when you look at it, what big ones, I guess you can argue... Wait a minute, I'm pretty sure it was actually. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Henn was on Sky pay-per-view. But there was nothing stopping Sky do that anyway. Hearn puts out there, and in fact I'll play that video now, but he puts out there that a lot of the fighters that are signed with Ben Shalom, they're signed with Sky. So it's messy. I think he mentions it here. Let's get to it.
Look, I think a lot of those fighters have contracts with Sky. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think Ben's done a bad job. I honestly think, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, but no one will ever be able to replicate what we did with Sky. And, you know, Sky Sports have been an unbelievable broadcaster. And I hope they stay in boxing. But we had a run, like I said, that, you know, call it fluke, call it brilliance, call it a great partnership, whatever you want to call it, it will never be replicated. And, you know, I think sometimes people look about how the product has changed. maybe it's just, the partnership weren't there. But I don't think he's done a bad job, and good luck to him moving forward. I'm sure he'll stay on there for a few or get another contract, whatever. We'll focus on our business. Look, I think.
Okay, so you heard there from Eggy. The point is, if, for example, Chris Eubank Jr.'s signed with Sky somehow, then guess what? They'll still be getting the Sky pay-per-view with Chris Eubank Jr., which would have been Ben Shalom's biggest event by miles. And even then, how long's that going to last? I guess you've got maybe the Billy Joe, the Conor Hen rematch. But still, if they've got Eubank signed there, they could have that anyway. And as it happens, all of these shows these days are going to be with Turkey. So a promoter as such isn't required anymore. Sky can just do a deal with Turkey and say, hey, we'll put your fights on our pay-per-view platform and we'll split it 50-50, for example. Promote it for what? What pay-per-view has occurred that Turkey hasn't been involved in recently? Give me an example. I'm trying to think. They're all Turkey. So, from Sky's point of view, what are they paying Ben for? Outside of the pay-per-view fights, which they don't need him for, as we've explained. What else you got? Okay, you had Whittaker versus Cameron 2. Whittaker versus Cameron 1 was on a Turkey event, for example. But Whittaker versus Cameron 2, okay. They're like, media, kind of meaty, innit? It's the meaty. It's the 4, 5 out of 10s. There's nothing there that's going to blow your brains out. At the same time, Ben Shalom mentioned, which is worth noting in this video I played earlier, we need to do what's best for us. We need the biggest budget. So obviously Sky have come to him and said, Bosh, you ain't getting no generic 4 out of 10 budgets no more, like they did in their heyday. And really, them budgets were based on AJ anyway. It was the AJ boom. They wouldn't have even backed. When Eddie Hearn was doing all these crazy shows with Lewis Ritson and Geordie Golovkin, them type of ones, that never would have happened without AJ. I was on the back of AJ, to be fair. British boxing was going up expeditiously. Anywho, one key thing I think is worth mentioning now as well. Ben says, we have to do what's best for us. We need the biggest budgets. So we can assume Sky were cutting his budgets, but also where would them... He says we've got a big announcement coming soon and we needed to make sure we were moving on to bigger and better things. Well, what's a bigger and better thing than Sky? It's got to be DAZN, which makes sense. Frank Warren is with DAZN now. Eggy's with DAZN. The only weird thing is, Eddie says somewhere in this video I played earlier, I'm sure he says, yeah... Eddie would know. I think Eddie Hearn, he's involved. He's not just a promoter at DAZN. He's like involved in the mechanics of it, and he doesn't. Wait, let me play it again.
A lot of those fighters call it brilliance, call it a great partnership, whatever you want to call it. It will never be replicated, and I think sometimes people look about how the product has changed. Maybe it's just the partnership weren't there, but I don't think he's done a bad job, and good luck to him moving forward. I'm sure he'll stay on there for a few or get another contract, whatever. We'll focus on our business. Look, I think...
Okay, so he says, good luck to him. I think he'll probably stay on there for a few and Ben Shalom will do a bit of this. And I'm thinking, well, if Ben Shalom was going to DAZN, is Eggy playing possum and he knows that he's coming to DAZN? But it sounds like, if Ben Shalom was going to DAZN, Eggy would know that he's not going to be doing a few at Sky, right? So what's this big deal that Ben Shalom alludes to? Yeah, we got to do what's best for us and our fighters, and we needed bigger budgets and whatever. Where would that be? Isn't Channel 5? Really? Could it be Channel 5? I mean, if he ends up at Channel 5, it's finished. That's the truth. Are Channel 5 putting the big shmoney up? I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe all of a sudden they've... At the same time, it's more likely... It's probably an ego thing. Listen, if Ben Shalom signs with DAZN, I'll agree he's probably getting a bigger budget. If he doesn't, and he ends up at Channel 5, he's doing what a good salesman does. Yeah, we're on to bigger and better things. Bosh. What's that town called that Ricky Gervais was in The Office? Stevenage. Bosh. You've gone from the West End to Stevenage. That's what... If he doesn't go to DAZN, if he goes to Channel 5, Ben Shalom's gone from the West End to Stevenage. That's where he'll be in them offices with People like the likes of David Brent. That's what he'll be doing, man. For sure. Them dirty, big, high-rise office, crusty windows, man. That's what he'll be in, for sure. But yeah, let's see how it plays out. Who's on his stable? I mean, it's hard. I don't know how Frank Warren, man. Frank Warren's played a blinder. I think with Eggy, because Eggy has success in pub games, darts, snooker, I don't know how focused he is purely on boxing, because it doesn't look like he's very focused on boxing at all. He looks like he's almost semi-retired, to be fair. What big acquisitions has he made? Frank Warren's got them all. So Frank Warren's solely focused on boxing, and he took that money. Because before Tyson Fury got with Frank Warren, Frank was washed up to bits. And I never thought... He's like a cockroach, Frank Warren. And I thought there's no way he's going to recover from this ever. But unlike Eggy, Frank Warren seems to have... He's rolled that Tyson Fury bread into acquiring new talent. He's got all the talent, more or less. I can't think of one big signing Eggy's got. It must be a purposeful decision. He ain't signed no one. He's not taking not even risk. He's not... Who was his last signing? I can't name you one. Top signing he's got. Frank Warren got a bit of Tyson Fury bread, and he's been bang on it ever since. Just picking little ones here that have come good. Things that at the time didn't even really make much sense. He thought, what's he doing that for? I think he got Joe Parker. Joe Parker was washed up. But when you own 90% of the game, inevitably, he's got Lawrence Okoli, Eddie used to have. It's just all come together. He obviously played a blinder with Moses Talma, up until this point at least. Fabio Wardley, Eggy Hearn had. Dillian White, Eggy Hearn had. It must be a purposeful thing from Eggy. You have to assume. He must be purposefully retrenching his boxing business and focusing. Like Turkey said, he's focusing on the pub games. Pool, snooker, beer pong. Yeah? Sweet Caroline. That's what he's focusing on. Those are his core competencies now. Yeah, Sweet Caroline, get the ping pong ball in the beer. Bosh, get in the cup. Ping pong, beer pong. That's what he's on right now, for sure. So with that in mind, with Frank Warren just cleaning up, because whilst Eggy, yeah, he sat back on the AJ train, and he sat back a little bit too long. He got a little bit too comfortable, thinking, oh, this will never end. And you see this with companies. I don't know how much of this applies to Eggy, but there was a company called, I think they're probably still around, Kodak. Kodak used to make cameras. And they were given the opportunity, same as Nokia. Nokia, that was the phone to have. And then smartphones came out, and there's been loads of examples where when you're the leader, you just think, this is going to work forever. Eggy thought, oh, the AJ thing's going to work forever. Whatever I touch turns to gold. And it didn't. And it often doesn't. You've got to do something new. So Eggy's just soaking the life out of the AJ situation, and AJ for me now, if you look at the numbers, no one's really interested about AJ now. To tell the truth, it's not like it was. Whereas Frank, he took that Fury money and he's put it to work. Eggy just took the AJ money and just squirreled it away, which is obviously his right to do, but his stable's looking washed up. Not that he cares. The Matchroom's worth about $1 billion, so it don't make a scrap of difference to him if he never signs a fighter again. But yeah, as far as Ben Shalom's concerned, I'm not sure how long. I'm trying to think, what fighters does he have though? I really struggle to think. Who's he got worth talking about? I couldn't tell you, to be fair, apart from Ben Whittaker. That's it. Let's have a look actually quickly before we go. Let's have a look at the Boxer stable. Boxer stable. Here we go. Have they got Caroline Dubois? But that's women's boxing. All due respect, that's not going to pay no bills like that. Yeah. Eubank Jr. Okay, but long in the tooth. Long in the tooth, and he's got probably Conor Benn rematch. Could be a Conor Benn trilogy if he was to lose, but I assume he wins that fight. So let's say worst case. 2 more Ben fights and 2 Billy Joe fights. What's that going to last? That's like 2 years. A Canelo fight. So yeah, listen, man. If Ben Shalom's able to keep Eubank Jr., that could keep him going. You don't need a lot. Look at Frank Warren. Frank Warren had no one but Tyson Fury at a certain point in time. No one at all. Absolutely no one. No one at all. If you get a star that's able to get the Canelo, Conor Benn fights, these are 8-figure fights, that can sustain the rest of your business whilst it's lasting. And what he needs to do, Ben Shalom, is get into the trenches. There must be some, maybe not, there must be some Moses Talmas knocking around. Some unfound talent, or maybe there isn't, and it's really hard to find. But yeah, you got Ben Whittaker, okay. Adam Azim, okay. Caroline Dubois, Fidel Riley, Fraser Clark, Fraser Softbones, Riakpour, Billum Smith. Okay, it's not a Boazzi, what? Oh, he's got I forgot about that cat there. That's great. Okay, he's got a few little names still. He's got a few little names, to be fair to him. It's not completely over for him. Jamie TKV could become heavyweight British champion. Yeah, there's a few things here, actually. His stable ain't completely washed. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, people. Smash the like button, subscribe, like the bell, 100%. There's no doubt about this. Some people stop it. Yep.